Hello, 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 and howdy doody to Udi sociologists. Udi. This is it. Our final lesson video on social movements, and then there's 4 about Me Too, but whatever. Congratulations, you've made it. Pat yourself on the back. Mini Heimlich maneuver. Okay. Some learning goals. You're going to know the outcome of the no DAPL movement, which I think you kind of already do. You're going to be able to analyse impacts of things. Important. Just think, a few months ago, our skills at analysis and evaluation were weak, but now they're choice. So congratulations. And you're going to be able to evaluate. Oh no, I'm giving you one activity of both kinds. Yeah, I just want you to learn. Right. An example of change, the Dakota pipeline. So the construction stalled for a while in 2016 under Barack Obama. It was resumed under Trump. Obviously, he's a pro-business candidate, so it kind of, and he's not a strong environmental supporter, so it kind of makes sense that he would resume the pipeline. However, there were legal questions to be answered. So the Standing Rock Sioux tribe sued, still in court. Oh, is it? No. An update, I found out that in July 2020 the court has ordered a halt to the pipeline. So it's quite exciting studying social movements because you're really studying, depending on which one you pick, but you're really studying current affairs, you know. During the court, you know, Black Lives Matter wasn't as massive as it was now in January, you know. Anyway, what social movements are going to come out of the biggest change that's ever happened? I mean, I think that will be a really fascinating thing to use your sociological imagination on, is analysing the way that society is changing at the moment. In these unprecedented times, changing times, challenging times, these times. I don't need to hear the word times ever again. Anyway, sidetracked. So the activists have also said, irrelevant of what's going on with the actual pipeline, they're going to use the momentum to oppose other fossil fuel projects. I should say oppose, not opposite, but anyway, yeah. So one of the changes is that there's a stronger environmental and indigenous rights movement in the US, which they're going to use to challenge other fossil fuel projects. And as mentioned, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez said her time at the protest got her into politics. I'm a big fan. So I thought I might just give you a quick idea about what it looks like when you look at no DAPL, no Dakota Access Pipeline, on Twitter. So here's just, I think a lot of us actually is just celebrating indigenous stuff. There you go, rare white moose from the area. Think about how safe oil pipelines are. Some awesome quote about how great they felt during the protest, and some pictures. Twitter is another really powerful social media platform for social movements. Don't know if they've got their wrestling one in there. Anyway, so if you ever need to do any research about a social movement, you can get heaps of great stuff if it's got a hashtag. So if you want to look up hashtag #MeToo, hashtag BLM, all kinds of great stuff in here. There's like infinite material there for any case study that you want to do. Your first activity is to read this here. So go to bit.ly/protesting2020. It's a really cool website. I reckon you should check it out. Okay, it's time to do an impact analysis. Draw this grid up. So there is a list of stakeholders. What was the goal of each of those stakeholders? What power did they use? Did they use technology, social media, rational legal power, traditional power, charismatic power, and what was the impact of their use of power? Now there's 6 there. I know this is going to be quite hard. I'm going to say you only need to do 4 of the 6. So pick 4 of those 6 stakeholders. And finally, an evaluation activity. So draw this one up. You got to do all of it. So there's 3 social movements, 2 strengths, 2 weaknesses, and overall. Yeah, that's how you do an evaluation. You look at strengths and weaknesses and then make an overall judgment. So have a quick go at doing that on these 3 social movements: the Black Lives Matter, the Anti-Dakota Pipeline social movements, and the marriage equality in Australia, which was successful. Yay! Right. Here's a video called The 5 Principles of Social Impact. Check it out.
So today I want to talk about the 5 principles of social impact. Why is it that 2 people have the same opportunities and same educations, and one become a successful game changer and the other one doesn't reach a level of success or impact? This question, we discussed it many times while I was working as a manager at the University of Amsterdam for 8 years. And we were talking about it, and after that, I left university, became an entrepreneur, traveling all over the world. I met a lot of social entrepreneurs and also students, career professionals, who asked me this question: how can I change my society? How can I change my surroundings? How can I create impact? And then I would ask them, if it is an entrepreneur, I would ask them, do you have a plan? If it is a career professional, I would ask them, what's your passion? And if it's a student, I would ask them, what would you do after 5 years? So while I was traveling and I went to more than 20 nations, so I met a lot of people, and I wanted to share this story, what I saw and what I observed. So it is so funny because a few days ago, I had a discussion with a few entrepreneurs, and they were talking about, what is a social entrepreneur? Aren't you just an entrepreneur? I said, no, a social entrepreneur is completely different from a regular entrepreneur. You want to create a social impact. So after somebody said it, said, please explain. I went back home and I researched it. I looked for a good definition, of course, Stanford. And I said, okay, this is the correct definition. Social impact, how organizations or people's actions affect the surrounding community. So how can you how can you affect the surrounding community? How can your organization affect the surrounding community? Well, I researched more, and then I discovered these 5 principles, and it was also nice to make it the 5 C's. So I will go with you through all these 5 C's and explain to you what I observed. And I will share a few stories of people I met, and also just stories I found by reading articles. Finding stories about people who created social impact. So the first thing I discovered is that most of the people that created a huge social impact looked for an opportunity. They looked out for an opportunity. And one of the persons, I looked up a lot of entrepreneurs and career professionals, and I found one. Nowadays, they would call her a refugee, Estée Lauder, who started right after World War II selling beauty products. But what she did is not just sell beauty products. She started sampling products. So nowadays, when you buy a beauty product and it's a sample, it was an idea by Estée Lauder. She created an impact, a business impact, and she became also a successful entrepreneur, also helping other female entrepreneurs. The other thing I explain most of the time when people say, I want to change, I want to break through, is that clarity is very important. You have to strategize. You have to look where am I going? Visualize your goals. I know a tech entrepreneur by the name of Mariam Jemi. She's from Senegal. She was trafficked to France, and now her goal is to reach 1 million young women all over the world to teach them how to code. And everything about her is how to reach that goal. She travels all over the world. We discussed it many times. She has a clear strategy. She can visualize it. She can explain it. Have a passion for what you do. So a lot of people think that when you're passionate, that you're emotional. That's not true. I spoke to one of the co-founders of TomTom, a female entrepreneur, who said, I go for what I want, and I don't do it alone. I do it with my team. And I make sure that I sit at the table. There's a lot of people are talking about seat at the table. But she said, when you have a seat at the table, it is very important not to become the menu at the table, which was for me really an eye-opener. Because a lot of time, with all our passion, we want to have a seat at the table at what you want to achieve, change the world or change your surrounding. But be careful not to become the menu. You need to have an entrepreneurial mindset. You need to be ready. I organized a startup award for young entrepreneurs, and you can see that they're so focused on creating a perfect product. But a perfect product is not enough. You need to have an entrepreneurial mindset. How will you reach that goal? Strategize. Is it clear? What do you want? A lot of time people create beautiful products, but they cannot explain to an investor or even to their colleague what they really want or what they really need. So you need to have an entrepreneurial mindset. The last one is be considerate and determined. That is something that I observed also. Be purposeful and meaningful in everything you do. Lex Peters is a gynecologist and oncologist I've known for many years. He's even retired now. And what was so an eye-opener for me is that he told me, for 40 years, I go to my job full of joy. I was like, oh no, I'm not that kind of person. That's amazing. But after his retirement, he even went further. He wasn't not just a professor. After that, he wanted to save especially young women's lives. And what he did is he discovered that with vinegar and with a piece of cotton, you can save a young woman's life so that she will not, you can prevent cervical cancer. And for me, this is somebody who is almost 17 years old, but so determined, and not just determined to make a lot of money, which is also good, but really to impact his society and his surroundings, not just in the Netherlands, but also in the world. So, in conclusion, a lot of times people want to create social impact, and what I've seen, I've talked about these 5 C's, is that most of all these people, they work very hard. That is one thing they all do. But it is also not about them. They want to change their society. So if you're here and you're an entrepreneur, or maybe a student, or a career professional, you can start by changing and applying 1C. Thank you.
So I've given you a few random Crash Course World History videos, and I really wanted you to check this one out. This is the final one in the entire series. It's about globalization, and John Green has a look at whether or not it's good or bad. It's an evaluation of globalization, one of those three big influences: globalization, urbanization, industrialization, Asian. Check it out.
Hi, I'm John Green, and this is the final episode of Crash Course World History, not because we've reached the end of history, but because we've reached the particular middle where I happen to be living. Today we'll be considering whether globalization is a good thing, and along the way we'll try to do something that you may not be used to doing in history classes: imagining the future. Mr. Green, in the future I'm gonna get to second base with Molly Brown. No, you won't, me from the past, but the fact that when asked to imagine the future, you imagine your future says a lot about the contemporary world. And listen, me from the past, while there's no question that your solipsistic individualism is bad both for you and for our species, the broader implications of individualism in general are a lot more complex. World, then globalization will be celebrated for millennia. I mean, assuming we have millennia and can convince Bruce Willis to go. In short, to understand the present, we have to imagine the future. That's the thing about history. It depends on where you're standing. From where I'm standing, globalization has been a net positive, but then again, it's been a pretty good run for heterosexual males of European descent. Critics of globalization point out that billions haven't benefited much, if at all, from all this economic prosperity, and that the polarization of wealth is growing, both within and across nations. And those criticisms are valid, and they are troubling. But they aren't new. Disparities between those who have more and those who have less have existed pretty much from the moment agriculture enabled us to accumulate a surplus. At some times, this inequality has been a big concern, as it was with Jesus and with Muhammad. At other times, not so much. Inequalities are as old as human history, and almost as old is the debate about them. One thing that is new, however, is our ability to learn about them, to discuss them, and hopefully to find solutions for them together as a global community that is better integrated and more connected than it has ever been before. Because here's the other thing about history. You are making it. That old idea that history is the deeds of great men, that was wrong. Celebrated individuals do shape history, but so do the rest of us. And while it's true that many historical forces, malaria, meteors from space, aren't human, it's also true that every human is a historical force. You are changing the world every day, and it is our hope that by looking at the history that was made before us, we can see our own crucial decisions in a broader context. And I believe that context can help us make better choices and better changes. Thanks for watching. But there's no need to despair, Crash Course fans. I'll see you next week for the beginning of our mini-series on literature. Crash Course is produced and directed by Stan Muller. Our script supervisor is Meredith Danko. The associate producer is Danica Johnson. The show is written by my high school history teacher, Raoul Meyer, and myself, and our graphics team is Thought Bubble. Last week's phrase of the week was Cookie Monster. This week's phrase of the week was Bruce Willis, which I am telling you because we are retiring the idea of the phrase of the week. Thank you so much for watching Crash Course World History. It has been super fun to try to tell the history of the world in 42 12-minute videos. I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope you'll hang around for literature. Thanks for watching, and as we say in my hometown, don't forget to be awesome. Oh, Stan, that's a crash.
Finally, reflection activity. You need to send me an email with one question about the recent content material. So any question about the entirety of the social movements unit. Yeah. I expect to receive 28 emails. Oh yeah. Homework. Read the final 2 pages in the textbook for this unit. And it's practice quiz time. bit.ly/sociology quiz 18. Radical. Thank you for participating in this, the 20th Social Movements Learning video. And as always, keep it real.